Welcome back to another episode of The Practice Builder. My name is Chris Beer. I am a newer implementer in the EOS community. And the purpose of this podcast is to have implementers learn from one another. And I'm sitting in the seat of, let's call it Jetta Youngling. And I'm looking to those who are a little bit further along the road than I am to help share some nuggets. And what I've learned in this community is that there's a lot of tribal knowledge, a lot of things that can be shared when it comes to three buckets, which are very succinctly put, attracting, converting, and retaining right fit clients, value creation for those clients, and living some version of our EOS life. And today I'm really happy to have Mark O'Donnell with me. And I'm going to start out with a question for you, Mark. Pop
Mhm.
quiz. Since 2020, how many implementers have entered our community?
762.
Wow, that was really fast. Okay, wow, you are a data crunching machine. So the way I'm going to frame this is that 762 people
Yeah.
probably think of you as Mark O'Donnell, Visionary of EOS Worldwide, and not necessarily Mark O'Donnell, the practice building cowboy of yore, who has plenty of experience and lessons learned on
Yeah.
building a practice.
Or how not to.
So do I have your permission to explore that era and perhaps bring a couple things from your, as well as things that relate to common current day themes like AI?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think fair game. Anything's on the table, ask away.
Awesome. Let's take us back to your own practice.
Mhm.
And first of all, when did you start as an implementer?
Yeah, and I'll probably just give you my 90-second/60-second story. And so my boot camp was August 2014. Prior to that, I started a vertically integrated pharma biotech services business with my brother, and we caught the entrepreneurial bug. We started a total of 23 companies, 9 of them made it, and we were succeeding in spite of ourselves in a lot of ways. I had multiple companies on the Inc. 500, 5,000 list at the same time. We had 4 on the list in one event, and it looked really good on the outside, but on the inside, it was just complete and utter chaos. I mean, it was just chaotic. So I hired, and since this is like the internal podcast, which everyone will probably see, I hired a gazelles coach. I was trying to implement scaling up. I read the Rockefeller habits. I'm like, okay, this is a way to harmoniously orchestrate these businesses that was just completely chaotic. And it just didn't stick. Like my leadership team, my brother, my business partners, one of which, Brian Underhill, is a former business partner of mine, it just didn't work. And probably half of them didn't even know I hired a gazelles coach. The team wouldn't absorb the tools. So I got my brother to finally read Rockefeller Habits. And at the end of, and read by that, I mean Audible. And at the end of Audible, it said, you may also like. So Amazon said, you may also like Traction. So my brother, Tom, he reads Traction. He's like, Mark, I found the what you've been looking for. So I read Traction.
Okay.
I'm like, hey, this is just like every business book I've ever read, but with templates. So it's timeless things, obvious things. Started self-implementing right away. And I self-implemented for about a year and really figured out that it was like Dr. Heal Thyself. We were part of the Inc. Business Owners Council with, other Inc. 500, 5,000 companies. And it was an event at the Pentagon. And at having lunch with a 3-star general, I meet Jonathan Smith at the Pentagon.
That's a pretty cool origin story.
Yeah. So I didn't even know he was an implementer. He was probably an implementer for a year or so. We just got to chatting. He calls my business partner and he VTHs my business partner. And my business partner is like, hey, Mark, this guy that we met at the Pentagon, Jonathan, he is doing EOS. We're doing EOS. So, should we talk to him?
Should we do it together?
Should we get together? I'm like, yeah, let's do a 90-minute meeting. So we did a 90-minute meeting with Jonathan. We hired him and we booked our focus day in September of 2014, but I went to boot camp in August of 2014. So I went to boot camp, then I had my first focus day with an implementer a month later. I had no intention on being an implementer at all. It was just, I had these 9 companies, just trying to learn EOS, and I figured I would just sign up. I'm a 10 quick start. So I just signed up for boot camp, go to boot camp, in Gino's office in 2014. He walks in. I'm like, "Oh, you write the book? Can you help me with my portfolio of companies running on EOS?" And he's like, "It'll never work. Don't even bother."
So I'm sure you just took that as fact and you're like, okay, I'm not going to challenge that at all.
I said, "Well, I'll show you." So I went through boot camp and I was just really taken with the culture. I was like, I think I might have accidentally joined a cult, or I'm with my people for the first time ever.
Yeah,
I still don't know the answer to that question. I had no intention. I graduate boot camp. I do no sessions, just implementing EOS into my own companies.
sure.
And then I get my first lead from Sue Hawks, and abundance mindset. Those types of things were not something in my lexicon at the time. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what do I do with this lead? She's like, go do a 90-minute meeting, dummy.
Yeah. What's the catch?
Yeah. So what's the catch? So I go do a 90, fall in love with the client work because now I'm walking out free as a bird, no to-dos, and the rest is history. So I sold my companies in 2018 and was a full-time implementer from January of 2015 all the way up until July of 2020.
Thank you. Appreciate
Yeah.
that context. Again, I love this chat that we're having because I feel like you have the experience that allows you to help us who are inside the jar, so to speak, read
Yeah.
the label on what's going on right now. And one thing that I've observed as someone who skirted around the community for 6
Mhm.
years before becoming an implementer, I was an integrator for 6 years. There are a ton of things that you don't truly understand until you take the proverbial whiteboard marker into your hand.
Yeah, for sure.
And one thing I'd love to hear from you on both extremes, we as implementers play this special role in being able to come in and say the things that everyone is thinking or
Mhm.
say the things that need to be said.
Mhm.
That being said, especially when you're getting started, or perhaps if your practice is getting lean, you may have a little bit of people pleaser in you. You may have a little bit of, I just want to keep this client. Tell me about a time that you were a little bit too soft, and then tell me about a time that you maybe threw a chair and broke something that you shouldn't have.
Or had to break up a fight that maybe I
Yeah,
started.
one of those
But
two. Yeah.
yeah, when we think about the practice of being an implementer and that fear of being fired, what I realized pretty early on is that our clients want to become us. What I mean by that is your story, your been there, done that story,
Yeah.
your ability to resonate with where they are today and feel the pain of what it's like to wait by the mailbox for a check to come so you can make payroll, because the thought of missing payroll, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Not so good.
So once you have that lived experience, whether you have been the entrepreneur, been on the leadership team of a company, navigating all the things that an entrepreneurial company goes through, and you've gone past that now. So
Mhm.
the discipline that we live in, and there's some things within the implementer culture as we've grown, I fear have gone a little bit by the wayside, which is the idea of free focus and buffer days taught by strategic coach and Dan Sullivan, that every
Yeah.
Monday is a buffer day. That's where you learn, where you practice, just like a professional athlete goes to practice. Monday is that day. You go to Monday calls, you watch all the videos for the week, you clean up your pipeline, the list, if you will. You do all that work and you do your session days, those are your focus days, and then you buffer and then you take free days. And so that disciplined nature of the way Gino was taught to live by Dan Sullivan, he's been in coach for 28, 29 years or whatever. These are all the things that your clients want but don't have. They are living in chaos. They're living in fear. They're living in uncertainty. And so you as an implementer, when you walk into that, even when you have that VTH call or you're meeting them for a coffee or a networking event, you're there cool, calm, collected, focused, disciplined, monk-like. You have to be everything they want because every one of your clients wants to become you. So as soon as I realized that every client wants to become me, well, now I've got a whole new bar, a standard to set for
Right.
myself. So I think for every implementer, wherever you are in your practice, know that your clients want to become you. And if you don't got your crap together, you're going to struggle. You just are, and you will forever. And sometimes we get off track. You'll see it in when we're off track, then our clients don't close, they don't spawn in the session room and all that kind of thing. On that journey, when you are facilitating a session, which really starts with the 90-minute meeting, and even in the focus or in the VTH call, my average warm call was 7 minutes long. And there's lots of other people who go deep in those VTHs, but I just kept it short. And the reason I kept it short, because who wants to hire someone who has infinite amounts of time?
Fair enough.
Not me, because that means you're not working with anybody else and you have no
Right.
time, you have no discipline. So about 7 minutes, full VTH, get them into the 90. That's your first opportunity to show that you can command and control a
Hmm.
room, that you can facilitate, that you have the chops, because again, remember, they want to become you. There's lots of times where I didn't enter the danger where I should. I was never afraid of being fired once. It was a little weird because I just didn't care. Because I realized that they want to be me. Well, the person they want to become is not a wimp. That's not what they're hiring you for. So why would you do that? Again, I had no care. I actually had to, because I was getting distributions from my other company, I actually had to turn off those distributions and purposely starve myself of cash. It forced me to be the best I can and follow the process and get a check because I needed it.
So I want to pull. I want to pull on that thread where, perhaps, I mean, again, money motivation is a real thing. We all do this for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
But coming straight from a QCE, you see a leaderboard, and for some people,
Mhm.
you're like, wow, I want my name up there someday. Where do you think that competition is showing up in a healthy way in our community right now?
I actually think we don't have enough of it.
Tell me more.
When I started, there was no one who came into the community and said, I want 8 sessions or 8 clients, and I'm just going to have this sort of lifestyle thing.
Right.
The EOS life didn't exist when I started. I remember distinctly, I think in 2016 or so, John Tinney stands up at a QCE with his little 3x5 card and reads off the EOS life. And it's the first time anyone has ever heard it ever. So the concept of building an implementer business to live the EOS life was not a thing, but it was about freedom, and freedom that is generated with cash flow and serving clients well, following the process, because when you don't follow the process, you end in a world where you don't have freedom. So I think there's a little bit where people just had the total motivation to get as many clients as they could. 20 clients in their backyard was the standard.
Hmm.
It was not an aspiration. It was and if you went a little bit above that, 30 clients, 35 clients, I had 34 at my peak, then you were overachieving and setting records. The fees were way lower too. I mean, I think my first quarterly, the record was 400,000 for the year, 440,000 for the year by Mark Winters. But see, so we were all very competitive with one another. I was in a very competitive T group, the Honey Badgers. And so we made it a game. It was just a game. And
Yeah.
it was a lot of help first, but it was a lot of win. Like we just wanted to win. We were aggressive winners. And most of the community at that time were aggressive, driven winners. And that's it. The number of people who are not in that boat is much larger now. And there's nothing wrong with someone saying, hey, I'm just going to have 10 clients. I'm going to do 400K system as a function of my fee. And that's good enough. But showing the records, showing the dollars and those types of things have always been part of the culture to inspire and motivate people to want to drive towards mastery, drive towards winning, being the best. I spend about $150,000 a year in my own personal development every single year as an implementer.
Yep.
In facilitation, in coaching, in, Jonathan went really deep in negotiation, in speaking, in storytelling, every component of what it takes to be a truly great implementer. We were just all in on doing that simply because our clients deserve the best.
No, that's great. I assume that any community, as it grows in numbers and then again just grows along the timeline of life, is going
Yeah.
to it's going to change, going to evolve. And so this is where I want to bring in, the headline AI question, and, let's debunk, or at least get your thoughts on, the idea that coaches can be replaced, that there could be an EOS bot. One thing that I really enjoyed, that I hope that everyone has listened to so far, is the You're Hitting the Ceiling podcast with Lencioni.
Mm-hmm.
And, just really nailing in that organizational health is always the ultimate team advantage, but especially in the age of AI. That being said, how do you see the EOS implementer business evolving in 5 years?
I think that we become more premium, more valuable in our world than we are considered now. Because when you think of like what we talked about with Lanchonian organizational health, organizational alignment, if you have and we talk about the human energy model with all the arrows pointing in the singular direction, that's the goal of what an implementer does, starting with the leadership team level, and then the team takes responsibility for working their way down. If you take a team that is arrows are tilting one way or another and you add AI to it, I mean, that's 10x, that's 100x chaos because technology is the accelerator. But if we take a team that is perfectly aligned, rowing in the same direction, the same pace, the same speed, cadence, pulse, you name it, and they're moving forward as a machine, and you take 10x, 100x due to technology acceleration, I mean, that business is going to do amazing things. So I think that the mechanical parts of an implementer business, of which there are very, very few, become more premium. I think session rooms in person will be high value and premium. Our biology has not changed pretty much ever, and our tools have. So you think about teams and tools. Well, the tools evolve. They always have evolved, from sticks and fire and wheels, and, it's always continuously evolving. But our human biology remains the same. We're built for relationship. We want to be with one another. We lack clarity and we achieve it for a moment and then we ruin it. And then we think about getting a team rowing in that same direction, all that human energy aligned takes relationship. It takes clarity. It takes focus, and it can only be done via human to recognize someone's fallen behind in their learning, in their thinking. And so they should be looking at how do we use AI as an accelerator, not as a threat or an objective in and of itself. So that's kind of the way I think about it, where we are in 5 years. From an implementer perspective, I would imagine that most of your emails that you send and the follow-ups that you send and the offers for check-in that nobody takes you up on will just be automated in some way, and AI will do all that kind of thing. Your quarterly reporting, that will be all AI driven most likely. But the standing in front of a team and navigating the scrunched up faces and breaking up the fights when they do happen, because they do, navigating those interpersonal relationships will just continue to grow and be more valuable. And we know that there's about 500,000 new companies per month in the US right now, which is the highest degree of company formation pretty much ever in the history of the US. So we're going to have a lot more, but smaller companies most likely. The average company size that we work with today is 47. I imagine that going down to 10, 15, maybe smaller than that, where there's probably not much beyond the leadership team, but there's a whole lot more companies to work with and to help.
That's great. It makes me think of an upcoming guest I have, and Mark Winters, who is proposing not a human as a seat on the accountability chart, which I know is a spicy little nugget
It is, and
to chew on.
yeah, for sure. That came up at QCE as well. And I think it was Zach Wardlaw. He was like, hey, can you hold an AI accountable? I'm like, well, no. But I can actually hold the human who developed accountable. And I look at AI generally as from a philosophical perspective, and to give credit where credit is due, one of my former professors at Wharton, Ethan Mollick, which he describes AI as the jagged frontier. In other words, we don't actually know what the line is between the human and the AI. Like what is uniquely human, what is better left to the machines, because every model changes, and sometimes what it used to do well, it no longer does well, and vice versa. So you can think about it just like the line between us and the machine is pretty darn unpredictable, right?
Sure.
We don't know. Therefore, you should just always invite AI to the party, because we don't know what it can do. If you're going to go tackle a rock or you're going to go implement a process, just invite AI to the party, see what it can do. The second thing is always be the human in the loop, because it needs supervision. It needs accountability. You are the one dictating what its goal is and what it is that you want it to do for you. So you got to be in the human in the loop. The third thing is the accountability chart. Do you give it accountability chart seat? And if you do, 2, you got to have clear expectations of what you want from that automation. I had one client who created Harvey. Harvey was the AI that
Okay.
they created, the agent that had a team of agents and attended level 10s and still does. And they would just, assign to-dos to Harvey, and Harvey would go do them and send emails and things. All administrative, but it had a seat, had a clear expectations, which accountability or not, it's really about clear expectations, clear roles. And the last thing is that the AI you're using today is the worst AI you're ever going to use. So when you think about it's just always going to get better. And so you just have this constant philosophical loop. And if you can do that, you're going to end up in a pretty good spot because you're always asking the right questions at the right time.
It's funny you say that. I was just tidying up my YouTube channel the other day and found a quick video I made about an agent that, helped integrators. And I watched the video and I was like, God, that was horrible. But at the time, it really did seem like something that was, incredibly helpful and an extension of the coaching that I was doing. So I think what I'm hearing is, even though, as you were saying, the idea of Harvey, and I'm imagining if the Harvey story was shared among a group of implementers, you're going to get kind of a 50-50, half people like, they're not throwing the chairs, but they
Yeah.
are closing their ears.
Yep.
No way. And I think what my takeaway here is just, lean into the curiosity. You may not ultimately agree, but be curious, be aware, be open. I'll end here with kind of a funny story. As I'm building my practice, I've been lucky enough to have a couple of referrals from other implementers, and one of those, 2 of them actually, from Michael Deutsch in New York.
Mhm.
And so, just like 2 children from the same source can be wildly different, these 2 companies were wildly different, both wonderful, but different. So one, we just finished VB2. They've been good little children doing all the right things. And then the second one, he started it out by telling me they're really interested in EOS, but, Chris, in order to get started, they're going to need you to facilitate an owner's box session. And, just make sure to start with that. So I just played it cool. Again, I'm freshman here. I
Mhm.
double thumbs up. I'm like, yeah, owner's box. And then I go to Slack. What's the owner's box session? I go to the academy. What's the owner's box session?
There is none.
Yeah, I feel like I got hazed, like I got picked up by all the seniors who dropped me off in a field.
They're probably talking about partnership rules of the game.
It was partnership rules of the game for sure. But the great talk that I had with many mentors and again, of course, I could have gone to Michael with this question, but in the retro of it, and talking with John McMahon, just realized that there is no agenda, there is no format when we're dealing with humans. There's really only experience shares that we can give each other and draw from that to boost the next move you're going to make.
For sure. And before we get off, I think it's I feel like with, every new implementer potentially listening, building your practice, I think I just owe them kind of my best on how to get to where you want to go as fast as possible.
Go for it.
Just before I do, in terms of EOS purity, it's 15% of what it is we do in a day, right? It's teaching the tools purely, and you're selling those tools, and you set the context. And then the other 85% is them being like, I'm not sure what to do with that. So then you've got to facilitate, the other 85% is you storytelling. It is you coaching, facilitating, concluding, making sure they got a tidy bow at the end. I mean, you got to pull out every arrow of your quiver.
Yep.
To get them to conclude, to put a tidy bow on it. So it's conclude. Your 15% is the pure teaching, and that does a lot of the work setting the context. So you have to be EOS pure. Otherwise, you're going to end up doing a whole lot more work than you should be doing.
Right.
And then the other 85% is uniquely you and training and things like that. And a lot of people on that note are like, hey, EOS Worldwide, you need to teach me and train me on all these different types of things. But everyone learns totally different. And we have a very specific pedagogy, which is we teach you something, we send you off, you go do it, you come back, we clean you up, brush your knees off, and send you back out.
Right.
Because it's experiential and everyone's learning differently. So you got to go get those things that the other 85% is really on you to learn through experience. And that's where all wisdom comes from. But a couple points with implementers building their practices. I already talked talked about your clients want to be you. Be someone worth hiring. My dad would always say, just fake it till you make it.
There is that head trash that, again,
You got to take out the
you got
trash.
to take out the
And
trash, even if you're 3 months out of boot camp and you're starting to doubt yourself. No.
you are worthy and you can position yourself as someone who can help. Go help as many people as you possibly can with the tools that you have access to. Don't expect anything in return. And I can't explain it, but I would just go to networking events, to Vistage. I never charged a dime for Vistage talks. I did countless score talks and chamber talks and EO forum talks. I never charged a dime for any of it, because I was like, well, I benefit from that. I'm just going to go help. And then the Zig Ziglar, if you help enough people get what you want, you'll get what you want. If you have that mindset and you're just always helping, it will come back to you in spades. Follow 421. It works. You're just generating the 4 and you're in motion, and it comes in batches. At least it did for me. And the reason it comes in batches is we'd always talk about up, down, up, down. You really can only onboard probably 4 clients a quarter effectively.
Okay.
And then when you do more than that, which you should do as many as you possibly can, you are so focused on delivery that you stop selling. And your initial clients, they're probably not going to refer you. Also, with referrals, generally, I got lucky. And I do have a throwing chair story with this particular client, but he was a super connector, and he just would refer loads of people to me, to Jonathan Smith, to Ben Berman. He was a super connector. Not every one of your clients is a referrer or super connector. You might get lucky. You might intentionally go find them, but you can't predict that. So you just have to keep asking, keep going through it, and maybe you get lucky. And then I had another super connector that by my count today is referred about 300 focus days.
Oh my God. But for some people, that's their love language. And again, you can't expect that of...
Because you are such a useful human.
Yeah.
You're connecting them to all sorts of resources. You are using the EOS tools, and you are becoming so useful. People just want to refer you because they think that even if they don't need EOS, you're still going to help them, and you refer out. So with that, and Don Tinney and we recorded that video that's on YouTube, on our YouTube channel in Australia, where we spent an hour and 20 minutes or so going through how Don built his practice. I mean, it is the most help first method. That's not salesy. That's not hard charging, but is, if that makes sense. So people should definitely go.
Is it fair enough to say it's intentional?
It's intentional. It's help first. It's relational. Yeah. And it's a little slow for some people, but I encourage people to go look at that. I didn't do quite that because I'm probably more on the transactional line than the relational line. And then with the learning, like, don't go and think you have to learn everything in Basecamp, because if you don't have a focus day, you shouldn't be learning VB1 content or VB2 content. I mean, that's a complete and utter waste of time. Go just master the 90. Once you book a focus day, just have that oh crap moment, like I should probably learn this now.
I call those tomorrow problems.
Tomorrow problems, right? So go learn focus day when you have a focus day.
Yeah.
Learn VB1 when you have a VB1, so forth and so on. And I think that a lot of people with books in the 421 Biz Dev checklist, we know that there's a direct line. Implementers who have their first focus day in the 90 days from boot camp, every one of them make it and build a practice that they want. And those that don't, there's only been like 2 in the history of the last 6 years that are still in the community that did not have a focus day in their first 90. And then the first 7 days, out of boot camp, you got to be shot out of a cannon, but you're an implementer now, and there's an identity shift that occurs where, you as a former integrator, you're known in your networks as an integrator. It's an adjacent, but it's still something different. Now you're reinventing yourself with a new identity as an implementer. Well, what does that mean? What does that look like? How do I I was the pharma biotech guy. That's what people knew me as, former Johnson & Johnson. And, that's who my network was. I literally went through my LinkedIn and disconnected. Ed Callahan was like, you need to go in your LinkedIn and just unfriend every pharma biotech person, because you have to go through an identity change, which I did. So then I reconnected. So you got to leave the past in the past and take on the identity of a truly great EOS implementer as part of that biz dev checklist, and then just follow it over and over and over again until you I don't think this works. The differentiating moment is when you don't think it works and you keep going doing it anyway, those are the
Yeah,
implementers we see just take off and get everything they want from their business. But so many just stop, they go on a search, they look for, oh, well, this isn't working, so I'm going to go learn this or that, or I'm going to go do some other
sure.
things and learn to sell, but in your own style. Everyone has their own unique way of helping. There's a rumor that there's implementers who can't sell, but they're great in the session room. I personally think that is like chupacabra. There's rumors of it, but I've never seen it
Uh-huh.
in existence. Because you're selling every tool. When you are with that leadership team, you are selling the crap out of a tool to get them to go do things that are good for them.
Well, like you said, the 85%.
Yeah, that 85% is you doing everything you can to get them to go do what's good for them. And if you can't sell that, you can't sell anything.
Similar to you, I'm having a bit of a content day here, and I talked with Shelley Woodrow earlier today, and her big thing is the talks. She loves the
Yep,
talks, and that is definitely her way to connect with people. But she said that the key thing is to make sure that the you of the talk needs to be the same version that's you of the session room.
that's right.
I'll close with one question here. You made an identity shift from one career to the next, and now it's 2026. What would Mark of old, Mark, the one who was, very competition driven, didn't know anything about EOS. What's one thing that you don't recognize, that you wouldn't recognize about yourself? What's one change that's happened over that time that you wouldn't have seen coming?
I think it's an abundance mindset because I just was trained in a world of scarcity
Yeah.
and getting very worked up when competitors would win. And I felt like I lost, but I wasn't even in that game. So, like, it's just a better way to live overall.
Thank you. I think that is a great place for us to end. One thing that really hit me at QCE was one, it's amazing to be in a group of people who dedicate time to continuing education of our craft, but just as
Mhm.
much, we're all in there doing continuing education, honing of our own selves. And so it's a beautiful thing to be around that. It's a great thing to have people who are so, abundance minded with that knowledge, those experience shares along the way. And Mark, I want to thank you for giving your time today.
Thank you. Thanks, Chris.